Hello and welcome to another session of Mindful Data Mine. In today's session, we will be starting with macro variables, how we can create macro variable using %let. So without wasting any further time, let's start with the practical. So to create a macro using %let, we need to use %let followed by the macro variable name. Let's assume A. Then we need to pass the value, whatever the value we want this macro variable to hold. Let's assume it will hold a value as ABC. Okay, and in the end we need to pass semicolon that will tell SAS that okay, here we want to end the macro variable. So when we write this and run it, in the backend SAS will create a macro variable named as A, which will hold a value ABC. Okay, now if I try to create a new data set and pass %a here, set SAS help dot choose run. If I try to run this, now every time I use %a, it says at the backend it will convert this a into ABC. Let's run this and check. So if you see, we are getting the dataset name as ABC, which has 7 columns and 395 rows. Okay, now this is one of the example on how we are creating a macro variable using let. So whenever we say a macro variable is a kind of aliasing of something. For example, here the macro variable a is an alias of ABC. Okay, so it's not any string type or numeric type, but it's just an alias. So in case if I want to put some other day, let's assume I have b equals to 3. Okay, and I create a dataset A, and in the X I pass and B, run it. Okay, now if I run this, my variable X in dataset A will be of numeric type. See, and it holds a value 3. Similarly, again, if I say okay, my X should be ABC, and if I try to run it, because this A holds ABC, now if I try to run it, you see we will get dot. Why we are getting a dot here is because variable ABC is uninitialized, because this macro variable is just an alias of something. That something is ABC, and when it has recognized that it needs to convert A into ABC, okay, then SAS is actually looking for a column name or a variable named as ABC, and then it is saying that okay, I'm unable to see where it is initialized. That's why we are getting this note that the variable ABC is uninitialized. Okay, so this is same as writing ABC here. Now that is the same reason we are able to see a ABC column also, because SAS is trying to find ABC at the backend. Okay, now assuming that we want to write ABC, so if you remember, whenever we write a string in SAS, we need to use double quote or single quotes, right? So let's use this. Let us put single quote first and see what happens in this case. So if I run x equals to single quote and a, then SAS doesn't recognize ampersand a as a macro variable and it treats it as a string only. That's why we are getting ampersand a written here. But if we use double quotes instead of single quotes like this and run it, SAS recognize the variable as a macro variable and it converts the macro variable a to its original value, that is abc. Okay, so that is the reason I said that macro variable is a kind of alias, because it actually holds a particular value, and whenever we call that particular macro variable by its name, then that particular value will be prompted. Okay, now in this only we have a concept of nested variable like this. Let's assume I have percent let a equals to b, b equals to c, c equals to d. Okay, and what I want to do is, using a, I want to get an answer d. That means I want to call a only and I want to reach to this d. Okay, so in SAS, what we can do is we can do nested calling. So for example, if I use percent put, so percent put is a macro statement which is used to print the macro variable in the log window. Okay, so for example, if I use and a, so because we haven't run this code right now, and if I'll run it, I should get ABC. Okay, in the log we are getting ABC. Okay, now what I'll do is I'll simply run this. My all the three macro variables a, b, and c are created. Now, if I run ampersand a, it will give me b. Okay, and if I use double ampersand, then it will give me b again, because in this case what SAS does is SAS will combine the two ampersand into one first, and then it will look for ampersand a, which is b. Okay, so in case, because generally these questions are asked in interview, in case if you get a question similar to this in the interview, then the general formula for this is 2 to the power n minus 1, where n is level 1, 2, and 3. Okay, and this is like this. So 2 to the power 3 is 8 minus 1 equals to 7. That means if I put 7 ampersand, okay, these are 2, then 2, then 2, and 1. Then I'll get to a level of this, and my result will be D. Okay, so when I run this, I'll get a result as D. In case if I'll put it as 6, these are now 2, 2, 2. My result will be C. Okay, now in case if somebody have asked me what are the minimum number of ampersand you will need to get C, then it will be again 2 to the power n, where n is 2 this time, so that is 4 minus 1, 3. So if I'll use 3 ampersand, then also I'll get C, and if I'll use 6, then also I'll get the answer as 6 only, C only. Okay, so this is a technique by which you can tackle these type of question during your interview. Okay, now apart from this, let's assume that we have a data set A in which I have, let's say, x equals to A. I'll use the same data set. If I want to print anything on the backend, if I want to print anything in the log, then I can use put. Let's assume I want to put this is my first line and followed by the macro variable. In that case, I can use and a like this. And in case if we have anything after macro variable, then we put a dot and then we write xyz or maybe whatever we want to write. So in this case, what it will do is a, because ampersand a is right now b, so it will be xyz. Okay, and here in the x we will get b. This will be printed in log, similar to what we have seen in percent put, but this put can be used inside the data step. Okay, now if I run this, I'll get a data set A in which x value will be b, and in the log we will get this is my first line bxyz. Okay, so in this way you can create a macro variable using %let. Kindly let me know in comment if you have any queries related to creating macro variable using %let. I'll see you in the next session. Thank you.